Welcome to part 24, that's right, number 24 of my family, where I'm going to tell you about a specific branch, break down what I know about them, what I don't know about them, and more importantly, how I got to the conclusions that I did. And the reason that I'm doing this, as always, is so that I can show you folks how each specific branch of my family has had to use different tactics and strategies to break through brick walls. And today I'm really pleased to talk to you about my Trostler family from Slovakia, which is one of the most recent brick walls that I've smashed. But before we begin, I just have one favor to ask you, which is that you do what you want to do to your brick wall and just demolish that like button. That's right, smash it, give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and that way you'll be notified whenever I post new episodes. So thank you so much for doing that, and let's get started with my Trostler family. Now this discovery is multifaceted and took a number of years to uncover, and it's a fantastic example about how sticking with it and continuing to look at things from different angles can pay dividends in the long run. The marriage and death records were consistent across the board, which is that my third great-grandmother was Julia Trostler, born sometime in the 1840s in Hungary, which of course I found out was modern-day Slovakia later on. But for a long time, I was kind of stuck at her. I couldn't even find her death certificate, but eventually I did some digging, and I found her 1911 death certificate in New York, and that reveals the name of her parents, which happened to be Wolf Loeb Trostler and Lottie Sonnenschein. It's not a great scan, and the document's a little bit difficult to read, but after a good amount of analysis, it did seem like the father was Wolf Loeb, which I kind of figured out was a Hungarian variation of the name Leib. And then the mother's name is a little bit difficult to decipher, but it does look like the letter L, and probably the most likely name would be Lottie. And the last name Sonnenschein is a very common Hungarian last name meaning sunshine. Now we're actually going to be talking about the last name Sonnenschein on the next one of these episodes. It's my favorite surname probably in my entire family tree, simply due to the fact that it means sunshine. I think it's a really beautiful last name, and it does intertwine with the Trostler family. Now I spent a long time looking for anybody in Hungary with the name Wolf Trostler, and I found a couple of people who didn't seem like very likely candidates. None of them had a daughter named Julia, and none of them seemed to link up to the specific region where the Singers, so Joseph Singer was Julia Trostler's husband, where the Singers had lived. So I kind of put this line on the back burner for a long time, and to be completely honest with you, had given up hope that I was ever going to learn anything further about them. That is, until one day I just decided to get back into researching the Trostlers, and this is what I found. In the 1848 Hungarian census, there was a man named Joseph Trostler, born around 1799, living with what is presumably a second wife and a few young children, one of whose name is Julia. And this was the only instance of a Julia Trostler on the census that I could find, born around the same time as my third great-grandmother, and also living in a similar region to my Singer family. So this immediately made me think and look deeper into the family. The reason I was pretty sure this was a second spouse of Joseph's is that there was a huge age gap between him and her, which is something you see a lot among second marriages. And the wife was also way too young to have had his kids. And in fact, I ended up researching the family even deeper into time and found that they moved to a village called Moskovec or Moskovici in Slovakia, and it's in the Zilina region near the big city of Martin, or Saint Martin as it used to be called. And that is very near to where my Singers lived in Kloster Podzniewem, formerly known as Zniovoralia. Joseph and Cecile ended up having at least 4 kids after moving to Muscovec. And when I was researching their children, I realized that at least 3 of the kids had named children after Joseph. One was Joseph Turaki Trostler, who actually ended up becoming a famous Hungarian literary critic. Another was Joseph Lipot Moscosi, son of Aranka Trostler and Ferenc Moscosi. And the third one was the son of Simon Trostler. His name was Oscar. And because I was able to find the birth records of both Oscar and Joseph Moscosi, I saw that the Hebrew names listed for them on their birth records was actually Wolf Leib. So that's right, at least 2 of Joseph's grandchildren had the name Wolf Leib, and presumably this other guy, Joseph Turaki Trostler, probably also had the same Hebrew name. And it appears that they were named after their grandfather, Joseph, which makes me think that Joseph was the secular name that he went under, but his Hebrew name was actually Wolf Leib. I also managed to find a DNA match with the descendant of one of the siblings of Julia. And this further impacted my realization that I'm fairly certain that Joseph Trostler was actually my 4th great-grandfather, and that his first wife, Lottie Sonnenschein, died sometime before the 1848 census, and then he remarried and had additional children in that region. Now, I have not yet found a death record for Joseph, which is something that I really do hope to find from the application to the Bitka archives in Slovakia, which I've applied for to see if I can learn anything further about my Singer, Trostler, and other lines. But for now, there may not be so much more that I can learn from the available records, but it just goes to show you that sometimes just because somebody's parent is listed as one name on their death certificate doesn't mean that that's the name that they always went by. It can be the Hebrew version listed on their death certificate, whereas on the local records you might find a more secular name. Sometimes you can even have it be where the first name is mentioned on one document and the middle name is mentioned on another document. So you always have to be really careful, and especially if it's only one document, never take it with a grain of salt. You always want to try to look at the big picture. And in this case, just so many things seem to line up, indicating that this was the case. So there you go. That was an exciting one. I'm going to continue to try to chip away at my Trostler family over time, because I do think there's still a lot more that can be uncovered, given, being able to find any further records or DNA matches. And in the next episode, well, I'm going to be talking about my Sonnenschein family, but I'm not just going to be talking about them on my Meet My Family section of this show. I'm also going to be talking about an incredible artifact that I was able to acquire for my ancestor. So stay tuned for that. It's really, really interesting and exciting, and is not something that I ever thought I would have discovered as a genealogist. Before we leave, make sure to follow me on social media. I've included links down below to both my Instagram and my Twitter. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.